Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. And man, do we have a lot to unravel in today's news update video. Um, Most of this you've probably heard because it's all over mainstream media, but I'm going to give you my input on it and then the advice I'd give you when it comes to prepping. So, last night was when I heard about everything falling apart in Afghanistan. Um, if you've seen the videos, people are trying to get out as fast as they can, and there's pictures of the Taliban in the presidential palace, and lots of images that I can't share on YouTube because they violate their terms of service. Um, the death toll is in the thousands, and a lot of people are uh, tying this into, it looks very similar to what happened with the fall of Saigon after the Vietnam War. Now, from a mission standpoint, we went into Afghanistan to deal with uh, bin Laden after 9/11, and we technically accomplished our mission. We extended that mission by putting in a democratic process and training the military, but one of our security advisors, they thought the capital wouldn't fall for, or the capital wouldn't be reached for 30 days of Cabal, and they said it wouldn't fall for at least 90 days, if it wouldn't fall at all. And I think this whole thing took about a week. The last number I saw, they had captured 24, 25 of the 30 some odd provinces. And another article, which all of these articles I'll have in the description down below so you can read through them uh, and make your own assertions. But one of the terrible things that I've read is we left a bunch of equipment. Now the Taliban's got it. Um, they're destroying hospitals, they're shutting down schools, um, and they're basically stripping any form of civil rights that women had. Their version of Islam is very traditional, and they don't think women should be learning, driving, going out, and doing all those sort of things. And they're implementing that by force. Uh, the four issues that I think it was an article from NPR said that will arise out of this is it could destabilize Pakistan, because for years Pakistan has been allowing in tens of thousands of Afghan refugees. And so they're showing favorability for a government that is basically no longer in power. So we could see retaliation attacks against Pakistan, and India would probably enjoy that because India and Pakistan don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. Um, Traditionally, the Taliban has been pretty okay with sympathizers of terror attacks, so we will probably see an increase of those in the future. It's not a guaranteed, but they've done um, hosting for Al Qaeda in the past, and so this could be the rise of the next generation of terror attacks. In some of the videos that we're seeing, they're stomping on the U.S. flag, they're saying death to America, and so they view us as someone that was there for 20 years, and there could be a retaliation on that front. Um, the other big thing that is coming out of this is China is straight laughing at the U.S. I mean, one of their state medias wrote an article saying, Afghanistan had a smoother transition than, our last like 5 or 6 presidencies had, specifically focusing on the most recent election. And then the biggest thing that has come out of this is the outright threat and not quite a call to arms, but they released an article saying, directed at Taiwan, you know, as soon as we attack in the Straits, be ready to fall, because if the U.S. is going to back you like they backed Afghanistan, then you're going to lose, and we're not going to stop. So the title of this video might have something to do with um, inching closer to war with China, because they're laughing at us right now. They think what happened in Afghanistan is some of the funniest stuff ever. And if it shows any inclination on how we would handle something in Taiwan or Japan or any other place that China wants to extend their influence, then they're not taking us seriously. So, as a prepper, what does this have to do with us? How does this affect um, our mission, our game plan, whatever you want to call it? Well, a lot of our resources come from China. And in a previous video, I talked about the third largest port in China that exports like 10% of the entire world's goods. They were closing down portions of it because of COVID. Um, if China really wanted to cripple our goods coming in and disrupt our supply chains, then any type of conflict involving Taiwan, they can say, if you help Taiwan, we're not sending you stuff anymore. And I mean, that's normally what countries do. The U.S. didn't like what Japan was doing during World War II. They were getting a lot of oil and steel from the United States, and the U.S. cut it off. They said, we're not going to have any of that. And in return, Japan had to go for the Dutch East Indies and conquer a lot of, or actually all of the Philippines and a good portion of the Pacific Island areas. So, as a prepper, our supply chain situation isn't improving. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's some, big shot that makes predictions about the market. And he's predicting that the inflation is here to stay for upwards of a decade, and he would like it to go back below the 2% mark that the federal government shoots for within the next 3 to 5 years. So your increased prices on gas, which funnels out into increased prices on basically everything you consume, tied into the fact that more and more people are quitting their jobs, states are reenacting um, unemployment. Some states haven't even got rid of the increased federal unemployment, and the giant um, poop show that's Washington, D.C. They can't decide on an infrastructure bill. One bill is $1 trillion, another bill is $3.5 trillion, but they haven't even decided to raise the debt limit, which they raised last year, and they've already maxed out their imaginary credit card. They've got to pay off, or not pay off, they have to raise the debt ceiling by October 1st, or we would go bust on some of our loans, which we're printing more bonds, trying to get Americans and other countries to buy those bonds so that we can spend more money. And not trying to be political on that situation, but both sides have kicked the can down the road on this infrastructure bill, and both sides want different things inside of this infrastructure bill. Some of the things are on the Democratic wish list. They want to increase, Medicare plans and paid family leave for different medical issues. And at the simple level, the government is 28 trillion in debt, and people like me and you, if we make 50,000 a year, we can only get so much in credit card debt. We can only get so much in um, car loans, house loans before they stop giving us loans. So let's say you could potentially get an additional 50,000 in credit loans. After you spent your 100,000, you don't get to say, "Well, I actually needed 102,000." That 2,000 doesn't just get to magically come out of the air. So, as a prepper, budgeting is a serious thing, and the way things are going right now in the world, inflation. There's some people are saying it's here to stay for the foreseeable future. Um, a lot of people are extracting resources but not contributing in any way. Basically, if you're not working but you're getting some sort of unemployment, I'm not going to get into, you know, what's caused you to get the unemployment. I can understand being injured, your industry hasn't quite come back or whatever. But a lot of people are sitting on this unemployment because if your state's still giving the federal boost to it, then you're making like 16 an hour. And a lot of people in the US really struggle with budgeting and planning and enjoy living above their means. So, as a prepper, if you can produce your own um, supplies, then you know where it's coming from, and it will lessen your burden on your income. If you can stockpile supplies for situations like COVID or situations in the future, if you've stocked up 6 months worth of food and you lose your job and you've got your, little bit of savings, you're not solely relying on some sort of money to come in to feed your family and pay your bills. You could accept part time work or do something else and not have to worry about the food aspect. Food, water, security are the biggest things as a prepper that you need to worry about. And if you have a buffer, a shield, whatever you want to call it, against that, it will benefit you in the future, especially if you're storing food for long term storage purposes. The other thing about it is, especially with inflation at 5.4%, you could argue that it's slightly below the level of semi precious metals. They say stack gold and silver because it goes up with inflation, it holds its value, and copper, aluminum, stuff like that. They're considered semi precious, and they kind of go up, but it's really not feasible to store, thousands and thousands of pounds of copper when you can store silver and gold. But the argument against that is you can't eat silver and gold, but if you were able to stockpile powdered milk, 10 months ago, I don't know what the exact price of it is, but most that the 5.4% is the average increase. Um, some people are reporting that their mayo for their restaurants have gone up by 100%. I was watching a video from Tim Cast, and the guy was buying buckets of mayo for 18 and now it's 36. I know a coffee shop that can't find large cups to sell large coffees. Uh, I've talked about gas being up like 42% year over year, and bananas, coffee, beans, corn, all those things are up higher than the 2% that we want to keep it at that level. So if you're putting away food now at today's prices, then when you consume it 5, 10, 25 years in the future, you're eating it at today's prices, not, 10 years in the future, it technically would have gone up about 20%. So as a prepper, stockpiling these resources is also another way to fight inflation. Now, if you're watching this video right now, um, some people, like I said, some people are arguing that the inflation is here to stay for the next 5 to 10 years. So the food you're stockpiling now wouldn't really benefit the fight against inflation. Right now, it's a fight against um, supply shortages in the future. One of the hardest hit industries from reports that I've been reading is the transportation and trucking industry. If you don't have truckers to deliver the stuff to your Walmart, your HEB, your Sam's Club, then there's not goods on the shelf for you to stockpile in the first place. And when more and more people start to realize this, then there's going to be a run on the already limited supplies. Although the media is not saying it's limited, it's just the stockpile is smaller than normal. So basically, they're saying if you rely on the just in time delivery system and you only purchase what you need, then we won't run out of anything. But the just in time delivery system, your grocery store will stay stocked anywhere from 24 to 72 hours after the last truck dumps stuff off. And that's not if people panic buy stuff and try to get resources that they need. So don't be the person, you know, trying to get your 1 month, your 6 months, whatever supplies when everyone else is trying to get what they would consider, 2 or 3 week supply. It's perfectly okay to be a part of the crowd, to grab some extra things that you might need, but you joining the crowd for clearing the shelves shouldn't be your only supplies to bring in. It should be just getting additional supplies and going with the flow. So what do you think about what's going on in the US, the world right now? um, I believe China's threats. I think they are perfectly in the right to be mocking us, although I think we should have pulled out after we got bin Laden and let them deal with their situation. Um, but we probably won't be back, but you never know. It's, in my mind, I think it's a 50-50. I honestly think the UN's going to jump in and, make demands, say you need to be doing this kind of stuff, and we'll be right back in the situation and basically have to start over from scratch. But that's all I've got for you today. If you benefited from any of this knowledge, you haven't been keeping up with the news, but you find your news here, I appreciate it. If you have a friend or family member that hasn't heard, any or some of what I'm saying, then share the video with them. And I think my next video is going to be my get home bag that I keep in my car. If you'd like that to be the next video, then put it in the comment section down below. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.